Right now, Australians are waiting for interest rates to go down, waiting to see what the government reforms are going to be, waiting for the market to stop increasing with raising property prices. But what if the waiting is actually costing you more than getting into the market? Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Intrepid Investor Podcast. I am Vanessa the Investor and here to help you go through the journey of investing in property. If you're a first-time property buyer in the investment space and have no idea what it means to find your strategy, to do your due diligence, or when to buy in the market, which is what we're going to talk about today, then I highly recommend you download my free guide, which is in the show notes link below, and it gives you everything you need to get started on your property journey. Now, getting straight into the episode. Today, I really want to dive into when the best time is to invest and why the best time to invest is now, and why a lot of people say that, not because they want to make money in their industry, but because the best time to invest is now. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Everything that you invest compounds. So the longer you're in the market, the better. But the problem is not everyone invests for long-term situations. They don't think of the long term. What they see is what's in the media. And that's what I want to address as part of today's episode. So I guess a lot of the things that are out there right now is interest rates, uncertainty in interest rates. We don't know, are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? Does this mean my borrowing capacity is going to change? Should I be looking at something cheaper or more expensive? It's a little confusing because every month so far we've seen them either stop, so stagnate, they don't move, or go down. So you're expecting them to keep going down, and essentially what that's supposed to do is drop property prices as well. Because when interest rates go down, basically the market is telling you to stop a little bit. Essentially, the interest rates going down is actually a mechanism. Interest rates going up. This whole time I've been saying down, I actually meant up. When interest rates are going up, obviously people don't want to spend money. They want to hold on to their money. They can put it in the banks to save it. They collect interest on it, and then they can make more money that way. That's what it used to be, the main mechanism for interest holding onto money, not to spend it. When interest rates are low, people think, I don't need to save. I'm not going to make much money in the bank, so I'm going to spend my money. It's going to be better for me to spend it. So it's to stimulate the economy. But when inflation is so high, so our rate of living, our cost of living is higher, our dollar is not worth as much, all those things that play into account cause inflation to go high. They want to stop stimulating the economy. They want to make the economy relax a little bit, calm down basically. And so what they do is they put the interest rates up to create that calmness of people saving rather than spending. And for the property market, for some reason, it has a big effect because a lot of people obviously see that it affects their mortgages and it affects their repayments. People are paying more on repayments. People are paying more, having less borrowing capacity. So it affects you in that way where you're like, now I can't borrow as much and I'm going to be paying more, so I don't want to do that. But the problem with that is that you are probably going to spend an extra $100 a month on your repayments, which I'm not saying is nothing. Yes, $100 a month, that could be the $100 that you put towards petrol or towards your emergency savings that you won't be able to use this month. But what I don't get is why people would max out their borrowing capacity so much that their repayments will actually be of detriment to them. So they will suffer if it goes up an extra $100. This is why you need to do your due diligence. This is why you need to strategically purchase properties. It's not about buying up to your borrowing capacity, and that means the more expensive property, I'm going to get the better returns because there's going to be higher demand for it. No, That is not the case. The most expensive property doesn't mean that it's the best investment. Even within blue chip areas, it's not always the case. So you need to get that out of your mind that I need to excessively borrow. I need to max out my borrowing capacity, because what's going to happen is those interest rates are going to change. And if it's not changing now, they're going to change in the future. They're going to go up, they're going to go down. Back in I think it was the 90s, the interest rates went up to like 14%. They almost hit 20. So you see that over time, the interest rates keep changing. So it's not a strategy to buy when interest rates are low. It's just part of the cycle. And so usually when you take out a loan, the banks kind of incorporate some shift in the interest rates to help, understand if you can afford those repayments. I honestly don't think that the banks do enough to help you understand what your repayments will be, because they are looking holistically. But when you put the numbers down, and when I tell my clients, oh, you might still have to be paying $2,000 out of your own pocket, even with rental income, they seem shocked. And that's with a rental yield of about 3.5%, which is pretty okay. So it's not about whether the interest rates are falling or inflation is going too much. Interest rates are rising. I keep saying the opposite. Anyway, interest rates are rising, inflation is going too much, cost of living is too much, the economy is slowing down, the government is getting rid of negative gearing, they're going to put more higher penalties on capital gains. All of these things affect your long term, yes, and some of them affect your short term. But at the end of the day, if you go into property being clear about what you're going to invest with, what your repayments are going to be like, what your buffer is, what type of property you're investing in, what type of growth you're expecting, where you can add value to those properties, then you won't be so concerned about those things that you can't control. And this all stems back to, you need to focus on what you can control and actually understand what you can't control, because you need to know what's happening in the market. You need to know what the government's going to put in as a new reform. It's good to know all that stuff because you can change the strategy as you go. But you don't necessarily want that to lead you into the type of investment property that you should get into. I've heard a lot of people now saying, I'm going to buy brand new properties because I can get negatively geared. I can't get negative gearing in old properties anymore. Well, there's ways around that. You can buy an older property and build a townhouse at the back of it, and then that brand new townhouse can be negatively geared. You can knock it down and build something brand new. And then, you can buy a brand new property. But at the end of the day, are the taxes the reason that you're investing, or is it the growth that you're investing? Because if you're investing for taxes, yes, 100%, go and get that brand new property, get all the depreciation from it, and just offset your taxes. So when I say offsetting your taxes, what it means is, the reason people negatively geared property is because they will receive tax back. They are paying too much. Their property is in too much of a loss. And so for that loss, they can claim the tax on their interest that they pay, and all their losses that they pay for that year, they can claim extra based on their income bracket. Now, if someone is on the higher income bracket, that is where it actually makes a difference. If you're on a lower income bracket, you shouldn't be caring about tax offsets. You don't pay that much tax. But people that are paying 47% tax, they want that offset. It makes a difference to them. And the thing is, I would always, even before this whole new government reform talk came out, and obviously nothing's 100% certain, just also putting that out there, none of the federal budget is not stuck in stone. they're going to assess it. They've got accountants looking at it now. All the industry experts are all going to unravel this and really understand, and then they will decide what goes forward, what doesn't. But anyway, I digress. So, what was I saying? The main thing is that your reason for investing in property, you need to be clear on that. So I've never invested in property for tax benefits. Have I gotten some tax benefits? Yeah, really minor. But I've never invested thinking, oh my gosh, what's my tax return going to be in this? In fact, when I do the calcs for my clients, I don't normally put that in there because I'm like, that's your bonus. You should be concerned with what your rental income is, what your outgoing costs are, so your body corporate, your land tax, your stamp duty, all those things, your maintenance fees, your property management fees, what are the vacancy rates in the area, what's the property price going, why do we think it's going to go up and increase really well in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, whatever the time frame is that the client is looking for their investment property. We look at all these kinds of things. That's how you build strategy. That's how the strategy is built to do things like combat the market or not worry about these things that we cannot control. We purchase properties that can still perform in tough conditions. And what we're going to be seeing is that those properties that are brand new, that people seem to be going towards now, or that will start to go towards, is that yes, they're going to start climbing in price. The first few people to get in are going to see, ooh, the growth is there. We are stimulated. We are getting up in prices. The value's going amazing. And then the next block of properties opens up. So supply right next door, a huge other 30 houses have just been put out on sale. What do you think that does to your property? You're now in an area that used to have nothing. All of a sudden it's got properties, probably doesn't even have utilities. It has utilities, probably doesn't even have public transport, probably doesn't have a school nearby, probably doesn't have a park, probably doesn't have bicycle facilities, probably doesn't have a shopping center. But anyway, you bought it because the market hype is there and the demand is there. You get that property and the price went up. But now more houses have just been developed next door. And then those are going to get sold. And then what you're going to be seeing is the demand is going to go down. And the reason for that is because there's going to be so much supply being put up. And when you increase supply, the prices go down when demand stays the same. So right at the start, there's going to be this huge influx because investors and first-time buyers are going to be going after these new properties. But eventually the investors will see, if they weren't in there for negative gearing purposes or for tax purposes, their properties are just cookie cutter. They don't have space to add value. They're brand new, so you can't even renovate them. So they're purely basing their value on the market. Market goes up, that property goes up. Market goes down, that property goes down. You can't create additional value, additional wealth. So investor demand is going to go down. Yeah, there'll still be the first-time buyers out there, but also at the same time, how many first-time buyers actually want to live out in the sticks? I don't know of any. All of them want to live inland, which is why they actually complain why they can't afford property in the first place. But anyway, let's not go there. So basically, what I'm also trying to tell you is that all of these uncertainties, and I think I mentioned it earlier with the interest rates having gone up like crazy amount before in Australia, all of these uncertainties have happened before. All these economic crises and we've had recessions and we had the depression and the global financial crisis, like all these things have happened before. The markets have swung, they've gone up, they've gone down. But overall, zoom out, big lens, assets go up. Assets that have demand go up. It's plain and simple. But you need to be able to buy a property that will have sustained demand. And that's where your strategy comes into play. Because like I said, these brand new properties are going to have high demand at the start. But eventually people will see, they're boring. There's not much I can do with them. I'd rather be the developer. I'd rather buy the land and put them on there. I'd rather buy something old that I can increase in value. I can increase the rental income. I can increase the potential growth without relying on the market. That's where smart investors head. And that is why the government doesn't want to have negative gearing on older properties anymore, because that's where investors mostly live. So they're trying to get that away so that you can put in, so that first home buyers and home buyers in general can have more of a lead, more of a place in the market of the older properties, which are in established areas, which then provide this lifestyle that people are craving and wanting. Now, let's break down the numbers. Say you've got an $800,000 property, okay? You purchase an $800,000 property. It grows at an average of 6% over its lifespan, right? On average. Now, that is the average in Australia, 6% property growth. What that means is in each year, your property grows $48,000 compounding. So in the first year, it grows $48,000. So then it's worth $848,000. Then you add another 6% on top of that, which is another $48,000. So then it's 900 and anyway, whatever. It goes up. So what you're basically doing is you're compounding your growth every single year. Now, let's just pretend it's the first year. I'm not going to get it all confused, because you're going to understand that it grows really rapidly after that stage when things start compounding. But on the first year, it just grows $48,000. If you are holding back on buying property for 1 year, that is your opportunity cost. That is the amount that you lose because you waited. $48,000. So now I ask you, how easy is it for you to save $48,000? How easy is it for you to get your hands on $48,000? How easy is it for you to get a pay rise, more income of $48,000 in 1 year? Because it's all good and well saying that, my borrowing capacity, I can increase it by $48,000. But can you afford it? Can you afford the additional almost $10,000 deposit that you have to put down now on this same property? How quickly is it for you to save that $10,000? All these questions need to be going through your head, because if you're holding off on purchasing property and you know you want to buy property and you're ready to buy property, like now, if you're not ready, don't listen to this, because honestly, you're better to wait till you're ready. If you are ready, good to go, all your ducks are in a row, what are you waiting for? If you're listening to the media, the scares that they're putting out there, what are you waiting? Why? You're losing out on $48,000 every year. Compounding. After your second year, you've made $84,000. You've made $96,000. So your property after the second year is worth $896,000. That's just 2 years of holding onto property. There is nothing that can give you that much in such a passive way. And yes, property isn't really that passive, because you have to keep putting money in as maintenance, as property management fees, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's probably the least amount that you have to put in order to get such a return. Now, as I mentioned, do not take this as advice that you have to buy property now, that you're going to lose out if you don't buy property now. This is purely for those people that are literally on the edge of the cliff, ready to buy it, but they haven't because they're scared, because they're uncertain, because they don't trust in what's happening. That's who I'm talking to in this episode. I'm not talking to the people that aren't financially ready, that don't have a job, that haven't got their pre-approval, that don't have a deposit. There are ways for you to get into the market if you don't have any of those, but that's something for a conversation for you and your mortgage broker. And if you don't have a mortgage broker and you want to connect with a mortgage broker so you can understand your borrowing capacity levels better, please reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram at Vanessa V. Dallas, and I can send you a good contact for a mortgage broker that will be suited to your needs. And they can tell you exactly what you can do, whether it's guarantor, whether it's buying as your own personal place of residence. Like, there's a lot of different things you can do around it when you don't have a deposit. But anyway, basically, I'm not advocating for speed. I'm not saying you have to be quick. I'm saying you have to be strategic. You have to buy the right type of property. You want to buy the property that's going to outperform the market. That's essentially what you're looking for. And so you have to be very strategic in that. Buying in the right location, buying the right type of property, and buying it when you can at the right time. And in property, we look at it as a long-term game, which means the best time to buy is now. The longer you're in the market, the better. It's all about time in the market, not timing the market. You don't care when you get in, you just get in and you just ride the wave. And the wave is going to be rocky, I'm telling you now. It's going to be ups, it's going to be downs. But you change your strategy as you go and you'll counter that wave. Now, every generation thinks that there's uncertainty in their market. They think that everything's crashing. They have a cost of living crisis. They can't afford things. They don't know where to go. They're looking at different countries to live in. The taxes are too high. Like, this happens in every generation in literally every country. Speak to your parents. They had a tough time too. Yeah, maybe back then some families could have a single income earner. But again, it wasn't everyone. I know people that are single income earners in today's day and age. The mum is a stay-at-home mum looking after the kids. That's almost unheard of. The guy works like crazy. So everything's sort of possible. And we've all gone through different stages, and everyone has a different story to tell through their generation, through the different generations. But what remains the same is that people that got into assets, people that started investing in things, have made it and have more wealth than people that didn't. And the longer that they were in the game, on average, the more returns they were creating. So I want you to think about it. What are you waiting for? What do you need clarity on? And why are you waiting? And if all of these things point to what's out in the media now, then that's not a good enough reason. And you need to really hone in on what your goal is, and from there, decide what your strategy is. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend or family member that needs to hear this. If you've seen them sitting on the fence trying to buy property and they've been talking about it for ages, send them this. They need to hear it. You need to get into the market if you can get into the market. Oh, and I'll just leave you with this also. The rich make their money when the economy is bad. When everything goes down, that's when they swoop in. They buy things for cheap, and then it stimulates it to increase again. And they ride that wave and they win that wave. So if you think, it's not a good time because the economy is going down, that's the wrong thinking. You got to start thinking differently. You got to start thinking smart, and you got to start thinking strategically. Thanks for listening in, and I'm always open to hearing more suggestions of the types of content you want me to present, or what topics you want me to talk about. And if there's any special guests that you want me to bring onto the podcast, please send them through. Just send me a message on Instagram at Vanessa V. Dallas, and we will be chatting again next week. Keep being intrepid investors. Bye for now.